Once upon a time, in a small, quiet, and very peaceful village nestled between tall, proud mountains and an ancient magical forest, there lived a young boy named Tom. Tom was about 8 years old with short, messy brown hair that always seemed to be a bird's nest on top of his head, bright green eyes that sparkled with curiosity and mischief, and a heart that was as kind and brave as the sun and the moon. He was known in the village for his infectious laughter and his adventurous spirit. Every day after his chores were done, Tom would race to the forest's edge, eager to explore its hidden nooks and crannies. One day, while playing by the sparkling stream near his home, Tom noticed something strange. The usually babbling water was eerily silent. As he cautiously approached, he saw that everyone from the village was gathered at the far end, their faces pale with worrying and fear. "What's wrong?" Tom asked a woman who was drawing water from the well. "There's a wild wolf near the forest," she whispered, her voice shaking. A wild wolf? Tom's heart skipped a beat. Wolves were said to be ferocious and scary, lurking in the shadows, ready to pounce on anyone who dared to enter the woods. Despite the fear gnawing at his insides, Tom couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. A wild wolf. It sounded like an adventure. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long, eerie shadows across the village, the fear grew. Villagers huddled in their homes, locking doors and windows tight. But as the night wore on, the sound of howling reached their ears, growing louder, more desperate with each passing moment. Tom sat by his window, listening intently. The wolf's cries tore at his heart. Something about the sound filled him with an overwhelming sense of sadness and loneliness. It didn't sound like the ferocious beast people described. It sounded scared, hurt, and all alone. His parents, sensing their son's troubled heart, came to comfort him. They told him stories of brave knights and valiant heroes who had faced fear and danger head-on. Their words were like a warm blanket on a cold night, soothing his worries and giving him strength. Tom knew what he had to do. He had to find the wolf. Putting on a thick jacket against his mother's protests, he slipped out of the house and into the darkening forest. The wind rustled through the trees, whispering secrets in a language he couldn't understand. The towering trees seemed to close in around him, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers. The undergrowth was dark and thick, making it hard to see where one was going. But Tom pressed on, his heart pounding in his chest like a drum. Suddenly, a pair of glowing eyes appeared in the darkness ahead. Tom froze, his breath catching in his throat. Were they the eyes of the wolf? Slowly, cautiously, he moved forward, trying to make sense of the rustling in the bushes. The eyes blinked, then darted away, disappearing into the shadows. Gathering his courage, Tom followed. He walked for what felt like hours, the darkness pressing in on him until he could feel it on his skin. Just when he thought he couldn't go on any longer, he heard a whimper. It was the wolf. He found it curled up in a ball, its fur matted and dirty, its eyes wide with fear. "Don't be afraid," Tom whispered, holding out his hand. "I won't hurt you." The wolf flinched at first, then slowly began to uncurl, revealing a small, furry body with a face as sweet and innocent as a lamb. And then Tom saw the reason for its fear. One of its legs was caught in a hunter's trap, its leg swollen and bleeding. Tom's heart went out to the creature. It wasn't the fierce beast the villagers had described. It was just a scared, injured animal. He knelt down beside it, his mind racing. What should he do? Carefully, gently, he began to soothe the wolf, speaking to it in soft tones, promising that everything would be all right. Slowly, the wolf calmed down, its tail giving a faint wag. It licked Tom's hand, its rough tongue sandpaper against his skin. With the wolf calmed, Tom carefully examined the trap. It was old and rusty, a cruel reminder of the dangers that lurked in these woods. But he knew he had to free the animal if it was to have any hope of survival. Taking a deep breath, Tom began to work at the trap, his small hands struggling with the tough metal. Time seemed to pass quickly as he wiggled and jiggled the trap until finally, with a loud snap, it gave way. The Volf yelped, but it was a good sound, a sound of relief and gratitude. As Tom helped the Volf out of the trap, he noticed how beautiful it was. Its fur was the color of moonlight, and its eyes shone with intelligence and grace. It was a magnificent creature, and Tom knew he had made a friend, but now he had to get the Volf back to the village. The journey back was filled with challenges. The Volf was weak from its ordeal, and Tom had to keep encouraging it to keep going. They walked through thick undergrowth, over fallen logs, and across gurgling streams. The forest, once menacing and dark, now felt like a friendly place, and Tom knew he wasn't alone. The Volf walked beside him, its head held high, its steps lighter with each passing moment. As the first rays of dawn touched the treetops, they emerged from the forest. In the distance, Tom could hear the sounds of hammering, sawing, and shouts of men working. It was the villagers, busy rebuilding the bridge that connected their homes to the forest. The Volf whined softly, remembering its ordeal, but Tom patted its head reassuringly. Soon it would be running and jumping over that bridge without a care in the world. He led the Volf to the edge of the village, where everyone had gathered to greet the rising sun. They gasped as they saw Tom with a Volf, but not the ferocious beast they feared. No, this was a gentle, beautiful creature. Tom knew what he had to do. With a deep breath, he stepped forward and called out, "Everyone, come see what I found." He told them about the Volf's injured leg and the trap it had been caught in. As he spoke, the villagers' fear turned to understanding. They saw that the Volf wasn't a monster, just a scared, lonely animal. An old man stepped forward, his eyes twinkling with wisdom. He explained that wolves weren't inherently bad. They were strong, yes, and sometimes dangerous, but mostly they were kind and loving creatures. He suggested they help heal the Volf and care for it until it was strong enough to return to the forest, and so they did. The villagers, led by Tom, cared for the Volf, bringing it food and water and making sure it was comfortable. Days turned into weeks, and the Volf, whom they named Luna, became a part of their community. Tom visited her every day, bringing her his favorite treats, apples and carrots. He talked to her for hours, sharing his hopes and dreams. Luna would listen patiently, her head resting on his lap, her eyes shining with love and gratitude. Finally, the day came when Luna was strong enough to return to the forest. The villagers gathered for a final farewell. Tom, his heart heavy with sadness, scratched her behind the ears. "You'll be back, right?" he asked, his voice trembling. Luna licked his hand, her eyes promising that she would never forget her friend. Then, with a final bark, she turned and disappeared into the trees. From that day on, Tom continued to visit Luna in the forest, and their friendship only grew stronger. The villagers, inspired by Tom's bravery and kindness, began to see the beauty in all living things, no matter how different or scary they might seem. And the legend of Tom, the boy who befriended a Volf, was passed down through generations, reminding everyone that even in the darkest of times, courage and kindness can light the way. In the soft sunlight of a new day, Tom raced to the forest's edge, eager for another adventure, his heart brimming with the joy of discovery, knowing that the greatest adventures often start with a single step and a kind heart.